Okay. What is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday night live on a Friday morning. You say Tuesday, I say Friday. You say Friday, I say Tuesday. Potato, potato. Happy to be here with all of you at my self-proclaimed outdoor workout zone, which I actually have never worked out in. And I wanted to jump on here and say hi. This last Tuesday, I was unable to do our live, so I thought I would just take a moment and drop in here instead. I had some great things I wanted to talk about then, so I will instead talk about some great things now. The thrust of what I wanted to share about was I was walking with a friend of mine, and she said, we always talk about surrender and letting go in the spiritual worlds, right? This surrender and letting go. And she's like, I think that what a more useful way to talk about this all would be is to say to connect. When you surrender and let go, you're letting go of what, from what, into what. We're expected to jump out of the airplane, but not even knowing if there's a parachute to catch us. There's people that have figured out different tools to get them into that state, like something called God or the divine. There's different ways that people have found to release their sense of control. But what is the end result of that? Why do we do that? It actually brings us to a place where we feel connection. We feel connected to everything. The individual sense of self that we're always kind of struggling to protect and maintain, it dissolves into a bigger system, into like a oneness. So instead of talking about connection as something that, you do with just like a person, what if we really, in our own vocabulary, anytime we use the word surrender, anytime we use the word let go, we actually replace that with the word connect or connection? I encourage you to try it out. I encourage you to try replacing surrender with connection, to connect with the things that you see, to connect with the tree, with the table, with the computer, with the person walking by, to connect. And suddenly you're crossing that barrier between self and other in each moment to the point where it just kind of becomes this one field, one flow. That state, that's the goal. That's why we do this. We do this to have that experience where everything is one, and we feel that deep sense of safety and belonging, and it gives everything meaning. I've heard that question throughout my life a lot, especially as I was a monk. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? And my experience is that when we're actually feeling connected, those questions fade away. Nobody's asking those questions that feels connection, because it just is. No one's receiving a hug from a loved one and saying why. They're just receiving that moment. They're connected to that moment. So allowing ourselves to move directly into the thing we want to move into. This is also what Joe Dispenza talks about. This is when you talk about like The Secret and different teachings on abundance. it's to connect already to the feeling you're trying to get, to already feel yourself arriving in that state. We culturally, in our society and in our world, we kind of, culturally have this lack field going on, and it stems from many things. It stems from resource grabbing. If you imagine that there's 100 people in a room, and they're locked in that room, and someone comes and puts like 100 water bottles in the middle, and that's the only water you're going to get. Everybody should be entitled to one bottle because there's one for everyone. But if one person runs into the middle and just starts grabbing bottles, then everyone's going to run and grab, and it's going to create this feeling like there's not enough. And then there's going to be someone in the corner that has a bunch and someone over here with none, and then people are going to join forces and create factions and armies, and this power struggle ensues. And then they're going to have people enforce that and fight other people off and create the armies, the soldiers, to keep their water bottles safe, and these are mine and I got them, right? Whereas then all the other people out there don't have any more. We're in these structures, this is what our countries are doing, this is what governments are doing. And it trickles down to the individual level, even like with the capitalism model, that we even see it in our own lives, the haves and the have-nots, if you will. And I was at this really amazing meeting yesterday. It's this group that, to be invited into this group, you have to have been making a significant impact on humanity. I think you also need to have like some millions of dollars, in the bank, and you're supposed to be having this impact on humanity that's significant and really pushing your field forward. And you have to have been doing it for like some years, and there's all these criteria. And I was invited as a guest, and it was interesting to be in that room surrounded by people. And every single individual person that I talked to just had this whole universe of beautiful things to share. The theme that the group kind of spoke about was abundance, and that, they were saying, like, we as a collective, as a group, like, we see how abundant the world is. We see that everything is abundance, that abundance is everywhere, that there's people out there, most people out there that don't get that, don't see that, but we see that. And at first I was like, well, if you have like $2 million in the bank, it's probably pretty easy to feel abundance. If you're struggling to feed yourself, to feed your kids, it might feel different. But then I asked, what came first? Did the feeling of abundance come after they made the money, or did the feeling of abundance come first? As everybody there was focused on impact and focused on humanity, I thought it was fascinating to see that when we start to focus on others and helping others and serving others and bettering this world for others, that is actually also when abundance comes in. If you think about some of the richest people on the planet right now, they all provided services for others. They all created something that filled a need, whether that was through like a social media thing, or creating PayPal, or electric cars, or whatever it is, that there is this correlation between service, between really focusing on serving and on impact, with then also success and then also wealth. And it's not, one-to-one. There's obviously people who build like a wealth just because they want wealth for themselves, and that's that. But it seems to flow naturally to those who are actually focused on providing and giving and contributing, as the Tony Robbins needs. The need of contribution is the last of the 6 needs. What are we giving to the world? What are we providing? What value are we giving? And it does seem to require what I would call like a reprogramming. That I found myself this morning just standing in the mirror, looking at myself, just saying, abundance is all around you. Abundance is all around you. You are abundant. Abundance is all around you. And I just kept saying it again and again and again to myself, looking at my own eyes in the mirror, just to begin to connect with that sense. There is something to be said about creating the reality we want, and it's an interesting conversation. You know, what is being delusional? What is being a co-creator? What is being realistic or optimistic or pessimistic? In spiritual circles, they often talk about focusing on what you want and feeling like you already have it and like it's real, and how our beliefs create reality. But, you know, then we have like children who are, you know, they watch Superman on TV and they're like convinced they can fly too, so they'll jump off their staircase and then just hit the ground, because it doesn't work that way in this plane. So then the question is, well, if belief creates reality, why can't these children fly? Is it our collective belief that flight is impossible that's holding them down, or is there different levels of immutable laws and facts and things that are binding us into this reality? And then there's other things which potentially are a little bit more malleable and a little bit more interactive and influenceable. Where is that line between the two? What can we influence? What can't we influence? And where's the work to do? What is the 80-20 in that? You know, how do we do 20% of the work to get 80% of the results? Where's the most effective place to put our efforts in that field? What I'm coming to as a conclusion, it's mindset. Even if you don't do anything differently, but you just start seeing things differently. Even just to look myself in the mirror and say abundance is everywhere, that everything's working out for you, that you're okay, that you're safe, you're loved. Just by programming and encoding myself with some very basic and simple things, it shifts my inner world, it shifts my relationship to other people, how I go about my day. I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for how we create our realities in that sense. That our views, our stories, our perceptions, our beliefs, our programmings affect our behaviors, affect our actions, affect our decisions, affect how we show up, how we speak to other people, what we're pursuing, what the limitations of our perception are. And within such a tight, filtered framework, in that little space we call our lives, and we do the things and we get the same results we've always gotten, and we think that that's just reality. We think that's that. But we do create those results. We are, I would say, from my own personal work, and also, you know, just for the last 20 years guiding others, and I can say I've guided thousands of people, thousands. None of us, and this is like a big sweeping statement, but I would say 0% of us fully are grasping the ways in which we create our reality, the ways in which we're limiting ourselves, the ways in which we're taking stories from the past and projecting them on the present, letting our wounds pretend like they're still happening, acting out of deeper and deeper, subtler and subtler feelings of unworthiness, hopelessness, powerlessness, rejection, whatever you want to name them, and we all have them in different flavors. But the brain is a filtering system. The brain filters consciousness. It makes it interactable. It puts things together in an orientation so that we can function. And then we build our lives within that orientation, but it's not real. It's not truth. There was a teacher I used to practice with, Ajahn Brahm, and there was a married couple that came up to him, and they're Buddhists, like, we're having a child, but we don't want to tell that child that he or she needs to be Buddhist too. We want that child to go on its own path, but we also just know how much important stuff is here, and we just don't know how to kind of navigate that. And he said, well, there's only two things you really need to instruct that child in. And it's to always be honest and to always look deeper. And he said if that child is following the path of honesty and following that path of depth and discovery, he said, then that is Buddhism. The point being, and this is something that I personally have learned, is being open to the fact that everything you've ever thought is mistaken. Being open to the possibility that you have been creating all of this stuff after your own image of how you think things should be, how they are, what you think you are, or what you deserve. To be open to the possibility that all of your perceptions are mistaken. For all we know, we are brains in jars somewhere in this simulation, right? As there's more and more people that think we're in like a simulation. I'm not one of those people. But I'm open to the possibility to accept that we don't know anything, actually. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know how I'm able to move this body and what me even is, actually. The more I engage with conscious communication, the more I see, wow, we're all just making assumptions. We're all taking bits of information and packaging them together. Even as you're listening to me, you're not feeling your feet on the ground or your butt in the chair. You're not noticing the background noises or the feeling of your clothes on your body. And every moment there's so much available information to the point that it's overwhelming because we have these senses that are open all the time. And so we have to pick and choose which bits of information are important and prioritize and collate that, and then build a world that we can then respond and react to. And it continues and continues. But our attention, where we put attention, that creates our reality. When I was a monk and we practiced walking meditation, right, it's this practice of you just feeling your feet on the ground. And every time your attention wants to go somewhere else and take new information, you just come back to the feeling of the foot lifting off the ground and setting down, lifting up and setting down for hours, just lifting and setting. And eventually everything just becomes so peaceful and so relaxing because you're putting your attention on this thing that's just so basic and elemental and grounding and safe. And then it creates this a whole state, creates a whole experience. Meditation helps. It resets the consciousness, it resets the nervous system. It's if you're holding something for a long time, your arm starts to hurt because your phone, if you're to hold your phone, eventually it gets tiring and you have to put it down. It's not that the phone's getting heavier and heavier, it's just that you're holding a thing. But if you can put it down for a moment and rest, then you pick it up again and it's light. So in the same vein, when we meditate, when we put things down, it gives us that opportunity to rest. It gives us that moment to open and expand and be in the effortlessness and the ease. And then when we reapproach life, suddenly it's so much easier. Conversely, if you ever have experienced something called burnout, feeling burnt out is when we're so focused on one thing that we just exhaust ourselves, that we're holding the thing and it's burning and it's hurting and I can't take it anymore, whether it's our jobs or our family. It's usually has things to do with like responsibilities and money and boundaries. And what if life could be just easy? What if what we call hard work or struggle, it's that, what if that needs an update? What if that languaging, that programming needs an update? What if it's actually more about placing our intention again and again in the place that we want it to be? Intentionally placing our attention where we want it to be again and again. Choosing our experience, choosing our focus. Creating our reality, our experience of reality. And as we create that inner experience, we relate to the world from that place, and then we create it outside of ourselves as well. Are we creating mindfully? Are we creating intentionally? Are we being driven by old patterns and voices and wounds and phantoms within us that we're continually giving the stage to? We're continually taking reality and sucking it into our traumas. What would it be like instead to connect to what's all around you, to go outside and connect to the tree, connect to the flower, to the sky, to the people, to connect and connect and connect, and then realize that abundance is our reality, that it is not some superficial new age term that's being thrown around to make money. There is so much here. There is so much here in every moment. There's so much offering itself to us to be seen and felt and appreciated and connected with and honored, the sacredness wrapped into each moment. The beauty of every blade of grass. Is just waiting. It's just waiting for our gaze, our hearts, our minds to open, to connect, to receive it, to see it, to rejoin this universe, rejoin this world as a part of it, as an estranged lover suddenly is reunited. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in, for listening, for connecting with me today in this moment. May you move forward into your life from a place of presence, of openness, slowing down enough to see just how much is right here waiting for us. Appreciate somebody more than they've ever been appreciated in their lives. Appreciate a blade of grass more than any other person has ever appreciated that blade of grass. Honor something in your environment as fully as it deserves, and you'll immediately realize peace, beauty, abundance, God, oneness, divine enlightenment. It's right here. It's just reaching out and being with it. Hope you all have really beautiful weekends. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you soon.